People are dreams. People are the ocean. People are fairy tales. People are eternal. And all you can talk about is a mass extinction.
Miss Grady, weren't you once the caretaker here?
Why, no, sir. I don't believe so.
I would like to draw your attention to a logical fallacy underlying the never-ending stream of doomsday prophecies brought to us courtesy of today's International Front of Climate Alarmists. Those nerve-wracked saviors of the planet who always have a crisis to declare. What an inspiration they are!
For scientists, it is unequivocal. Humans are to blame.
These are the leaders we need. Never a good word to say. I bow down to thee, whilst leaving a turd on your doorstep in a burning paper bag. Right then, me old fruit. What, I ask you, is the optimum state the climate should be maintained in? How hot or cold should it actually be? How much rain should there be? What proportion of each gaseous vapor should the atmosphere contain? Which state in the Earth's development thus far is the correct state? Is the Earth in the correct state today, or is it incorrect?
She interferes.
My girls, sir, they didn't care for the Overlook at first. One of them actually stole a pack of matches and tried to burn it down. But I corrected them, sir. And when my wife tried to prevent me from doing my duty, I corrected her.
Does Mother Nature need correcting? If you think about this question long enough, I am quite confident that you will, after having scratched your chin over charts of historic data plotting the constant changes the atmosphere and ecosystem have exhibited since the Earth formed, arrive at the conclusion that defining an optimum state for the Earth to be in is a fool's errand, because there is no such thing as a stable state in the first place on this Earth. Some things always changing. Now, add to this conundrum the fact that 10,000 years ago, just yesterday in fact, in Earth's lifetime, the Earth warmed to mean temperatures some 3 degrees hotter than today. After, incidentally, the ice caps retreated thousands of miles and sea levels rose 120 meters, a mighty upheaval which our ancestors survived gloriously. And add to that the fact that CO2 levels were, when trees first took root in the Carboniferous period, 3 times that of today's measly 420 parts per million, at 1,500 parts per million, with both these states having brought about abundant growth across the ecosystem. And lo, we find ourselves facing the awkward reality that if we were forced to define an optimum state for life to flourish, whilst foolhardily dismissing the role of environmental hardships on natural selection, we may have no choice but to define that optimum state as precisely those conditions climate alarmists insist will bring about Armageddon. A warm, humid atmosphere with high CO2 levels perfect for photosynthesis. In other words, the environmental conditions we create in greenhouses to take advantage of the dreaded greenhouse effect. Cherry tomatoes will inherit the earth. Delving then into the nitty-gritty of the conundrum I have slapped in your face here, like an ex passing in the street, let me introduce you to a muse of mine. The ether behind climate change.
Little pigs, let me come in. Not by the hair on your chinny chin chin. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in.
Could it in fact be that the entire climate change scare is founded on the imposition of a glaring logical fallacy? If the climate is incorrect today, as is reported far and wide, there must then be a correct state it should be in, right? Otherwise, how can we define which climatic state is correct and which is incorrect? So it is that climate change rhetoric asserts the presumption that there is a stable, optimal state the climate should be maintained in. If not, there's nothing to mourn the loss of, right? So what is that optimal state? The gold standard? Why, it is the way things were before they changed, of course. Being that I am getting on in years, I can sympathize with this outlook. Oh, for the good old days. Oh, for that lost Adonis of youth. Nonetheless, perhaps you see the issue what is being revealed here. To my eye, the thinking we are being subjected to here closely mirrors that which led physicists to conjure up the hypothetical ether, an elusive substance they persuaded themselves must fill the vacuum of space, and against which the locations of celestial bodies could thus be determined. There must be something unchanging there. The universe can't be comprised of bodies in constant motion with nothing static to measure their movements against. It's preposterous. So they set out to find the ether, with instruments glinting in the sun like the Holy Grail. The trouble was, try as they might, whilst they teetered on mountaintops, measuring devices outstretched, the ether was, confoundingly, nowhere to be seen. Not a grain of it, not a jot, not a sausage. While this was going on, a clever wee maniac called Albert Einstein was racking his brain for the flaw in these pioneering physicists' reasoning, and he found it. A flaw as big as the universe was wide. So it was that he sat these confounded physicists down and told them that they couldn't find the ether they had dreamed up because it did not in fact exist and didn't need to, as everything was relative. To cut a long theory short, Einstein's work showed that a celestial body, being here or there, depended on where you were standing. There was therefore nothing unchanging in the heavens. No stable plane, no fixed points in space to map the heavens against. The entire ivory tower of climate alarmism is then, in my view, founded on a false presumption bearing many similarities to the ether of old. Climate alarmism imposes the presumption that there is an optimum state which the climate, the planet, and its ecosystem should be maintained in. It thus imposes an imagined constant, a stable state, in a system that is, as is proven beyond any shadow of a doubt today, ever-changing, and therefore entirely devoid of constancy. Or we could say that the only constant is unremitting change.
Here's Johnny!
Judging one given moment in that ever-changing system's development as optimal is therefore an academic abstraction which is in no way reflective of reality. Doing this is like taking a freeze frame of a galloping horse and stating that the position its legs happen to have been in when the shutter clicked is what a correct horse should look like. The resulting logical fallacy we are now being subjected to, much like physicists before Einstein published his theories of relativity, is, in my view, due to a fundamental yearning emergent from the human condition. We have a deep desire in facing the heart-wrenching transience of existence to find something permanent and unchanging. When that permanence isn't forthcoming, as it surely never is, we perform mental gymnastics to conjure something permanent out of thin air, and so persuade ourselves it must be there, even if there's no trace of it to be found in reality. So, now we have whole universities, governments and their advisors, right around the globe, crying out that their climatic ether, that fabled vision of stable perfection they're latched onto, is under grave threat, and we must do everything we can so we don't lose it forever. Lo, we have watched over the past few decades as a movement with all the characteristics of a doomsday cult has prostrated itself before the altar where this ephemeral vision of natural perfection and unattainable constancy is rendered in glowing hues of green, to self-flagellate and beg forgiveness from Mother Earth for the destruction of her climatic ideal that never was.
I know of only one who was never overcome by weakness. The Crimson Executioner. He despised your world as passionately as I do. Look at him. Look at him. Preserved intact through all these centuries undisturbed. His spirit lives in me. And I'll continue his mission of vengeance. This is the sacred duty I've sworn to. And his noble crusade against sin lives again through me. And now, at last, you'll witness the glory of his return. And you'll pay just like the others.
Travis! Don't do it! Come back!
It really is quite hilarious if you have a dark and twisted sense of humour, as I do. Historians of the future, if we manage to retain our sanity through all this, will have tears of laughter rolling down their cheeks whilst reading the high farce we've created here, I think. So, next time you hear the phrase climate change, accompanied by its obligatory doomsday prophecy, consider this. A planet without climate change looks like the moon. Is that the optimum state we're striving to achieve through our attempts to stop the Earth's climate from changing? This is why I refer to myself as a climate acceptor today. For that is what climate denier actually means. It is those who think climate change can be stopped that are denying reality. Denying the reality that we live on a planet that has a forever changing ecosystem and climate to accompany it. There is a small chance you are one of those incredibly irritating people who will listen to this and say, in a plea to authority, "But who are you, little man, to defy scientific consensus? And so I say to thee, who was Einstein to defy the consensus in his day? He was a nobody who thought for himself and dared defy established presumptions when they failed to stand up to scrutiny. That is who I am. And who are you, may I ask?" Stay dangerous, folks. Cheerio. Bye. Drop us a like and whatnot if you'd be so kind. It does help with me rankings. Much obliged to you. Cheerio.
Mr. Grady, you were the caretaker here. I'm sorry to differ with you, sir. But you are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker. I should know, sir. I've always been here.